Musharraf, what do you think the impact of the coronavirus is having on religious observance and practice for the Muslim communities, both now, but also what do you think it will be in the long term?
Well, let me share my own experience. For first few days, let me be very honest, it was quite bewildering, perplexing, and it seemed absolutely surreal and unbelievable. For a few days, I really couldn't contact people or talk about it. It's so unreal that, look, I'm confined here. I used to meet people, dozens of people a day, and now I'm here, on my own, and I can't do anything in terms of this. And then, so I got used to it eventually, and I think, and began to look at it as something which is to be relished in some ways, because I can now actually do some of the spiritual devotions that I possibly couldn't do because of shortage of time and running from here to there. And so I think it's and it's sort of slowed down things. You feel, wow, there is another aspect to life other than just being busy with keeping up with the diary. Okay, so it's really a fascinating sort of opportunity, and I've had an amazing opportunity of actually doing more study of writing and hopefully doing some more useful things that I always love to do. So in a way, it's a God-given gift in some ways, this. But I know for some of my members of congregation, taxi drivers, my congregation consists of a large number of taxi drivers, laborers, takeaway and restaurant workers. For them, of course, it's devastating because, and they're not still sure whether they would be paid or not. So there is uncertainties and difficulties for them as well. And also, a lot of them actually, in their worship, depended in some ways on the mosque, on the imam, on the teacher, and derived a lot of sort of by being in the presence of the imam, being with others in that setting, gave them a sense of fulfillment and achievement and devotion in itself, actually.
So there's a community that's been lost in a way, as well as the feeling of people who've lost their livelihood. It's enormously wild.
Yes.
What can you do as a faith leader? Because, you're not able to have your normal daily acts of worship at the mosque, and particularly on Fridays, and we've got Ramadan coming up in a few weeks' time. I mean, what do you intend to do? How will you keep a community together?
Well, yesterday I did a prayer service on Zoom for a doctor who is actually a consultant here in Nottingham. He's seriously ill with COVID, sadly. And what's very sad is he was very healthy in his early 40s, and he's very healthy, perhaps one of the most healthy guys we know. And sadly, he's down. So we had a Zoom prayer for him, his friends, actually from all over the world, actually, they were. So that was really interesting, because this service I would normally do face-to-face in the family home over a meal. But now, it was very surreal. And yesterday afternoon at 2 o'clock, I did a funeral for a member of my congregation, an elderly lady in her early 70s again. She died with COVID, but she had diabetes, and and that was very surreal. I mean, Ed, I've been doing funerals. My funerals are usually between 100 to 900 to 1,000. That is, I think I've never had one less than 100, really. And this one was only, 10 people. And the undertaker, was wearing the white personal protected suit. It looked really surreal, and everybody was standing 2 meters away. And, it was just like one of those horror films being played, where you were looking at a plague scene.
So help us in terms of our the viewers who aren't so familiar with Islam, for example. Now, we know that church services and synagogue services are being streamed. And we know also, as you said, funerals of all faith traditions are limited to the the clergyman or woman and very close family. But you know, in a mosque where you have hundreds of people on a Friday afternoon coming to Jummah, coming to special prayers, that's not possible. So are you doing it by Zoom? Are you doing it from your home, like these other faith communities? Or is there a particular, if you like, Islamic dimension to the virtual service?
Okay, well, that's a very good question, because what we can't do is we can't actually do the congregational prayer. We can't do that service, as you know, in the Christian and the Jewish term service. We couldn't do that. What we can do, of course, is teachings. We can do our, for example, on Fridays now at 1 o'clock, I do my Friday khutbah live on Facebook. Okay. And so, you know, that's relayed and people can listen to that and then do their prayers. But we can't actually do the online prayers or service. You can't follow that. Okay, that's not permissible. And however, we can do the supplication, the prayers, and outpouring of our feelings and emotions, you know, through our prayers, and you know, we can do that. So it's really teaching that we do online. For example, on Wednesday night is a very important night of the Muslim calendar, the Shab Barat. This is the night of repentance, 15 days before the beginning of Ramadan. And so what we're trying to organize is a sort of a webinar for all my congregation. Hundreds of people, I hope, will be able to listen in. And we're going to have lots of our, well, most of our Karimia imams speaking, and some of my congregation doing some of the singing there as well, devotional singing. So yes, we can do that kind of things, but we can't do the prayers in service, like, you know, we would do our Friday prayer and you can pray behind. You can't do that.
So what we have then, what you're telling us, is that you have opportunities for teaching that you may not have had before. You have opportunities for your own personal development and spiritual growth for you personally, Musharraf, but also individual members of your community. But communal prayers are no longer possible.
That's right, yes.
If you look ahead to the long term, when things get back to normal, what will change?
Well, I think one thing I've certainly understood more of is how powerful online is for teaching purposes, and how really this could be the new way of preaching, teaching, for mentoring, coaching, for spiritual development, you know, of your disciples. And so this actually, it opens up for me. It's just shown me how powerful and how much opportunities there are really out there using online.
And what do you think in terms of the connection with people? One of the questions I've been asking is the impact in terms of the physicality. There's something about being together, isn't there? And you lose that when obviously we're at home as you and I are. But is there something we can actually learn spiritually by this separation, by this isolation? Can we become deeper, a more profound Muslim, a more profound Christian and Jew in this experience and this living with the coronavirus?
I think, you know, they say it's only when you are deprived of something, you begin to value it. And I think as we are deprived of those physical contacts, shaking hands, hugging, touching, I mean, it's those are amazing sort of where human warmth is really felt, and that human presence is really noticed. I think I'm beginning to miss that now, and I think what we will, when we come out of this, I think we will see how valuable that is, that experience of being next to somebody, being near to somebody, you know, the touch, the smell, you know, the sounds, and they're really, I think, important part of our humanity.
Can I ask one final question, which is the sense of the Ummah in Islam, the global community of Muslims, 1.6, 1.7 billion Muslims. But of course, the ones you meet are your neighbors, the ones you go to prayers with in your mosque or maybe on a Hajj. But does this sense of dislocation in some ways bring the community globally together in a way that perhaps you didn't feel or perceive before?
Yes, I mean, I was talking to, well, I was actually invited on a group to give a lesson in Italy about a week ago. So they've been there for, well, longer than us now. So they were quite experienced. So this Imam invited me on his go to meet, I think, in one of those, and it was really fascinating. And they've developed, he does a daily lesson. And so that was really interesting to go to Italy, you know, like that, and feel presence there. And I've been contacted by some people from India in Kerala, where they want me to do a series of lectures on Quran, and they're going to have hundreds of people on there. So yes, I think it's sort of brought us closer. And I think, you know, this whole concept of a global village is becoming a reality now, to be honest, in many ways. Yes.
Musharraf Hussain, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed.